I'm Billy Miller, and welcome to the High Note Podcast.
Hey everybody, I'm Jesse Hill.
And I'm Hank Berman.
And we are joined by the one, the only Billy Miller. How you doing, Billy?
I'm tall and good looking, man.
There you go, man. There you go. He works.
Don't hold back.
That's
Let them
right.
know.
That's right. Hank, how was your week, man?
Good. My week was good, other than banging my hands up like I was talking about earlier and moving storage units. But
Oh yeah, you were
there's
telling
worse
me that.
things. Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how'd you like to play? Perfect.
There you go.
Yeah, that was me. So what about yours?
It was good. It's been crazy busy. I thought January was going to be dead, and just shot up, which is it's a blessing. Not in music, my other stuff, but it's been good.
Busy's good. Like Mr. Miller.
That's right.
You're always busy.
I know, man. So let's
Came straight from court to here.
I was about to say, man.
That explains my being overdressed for
No,
this
no,
rather
we're-
informal interview.
We are underdressed. I'm going to have to go get some more clip-ons.
I feel like
Clip-on
Jackie
ties.
Wilson.
There you go.
Yeah.
No, you look fly, man. I like the navy. I like the red. It's very.
Is that an
classy.
homage to your law school?
No,
Okay.
I like navy and I like red. Sometimes I put them together.
What do you get?
I don't know. Don't make me go all Marshawn Lynch on you. You know, at any moment, this interview could go like that, and I could start responding in monosyllabic grunts.
And then we would have it on video now, so you would be
That's
like,
right.
"Oh, look at that guy! He's a prima
He
donna.
is a tool.
He's a tool.
We knew he was a divo.
a tool chest."
So, Billy, let's talk about. Man, I've been seeing your name everywhere lately. I know you're at the White House. I saw you a couple times at. I didn't see you, but I saw the advertisement. Where was
Ground
it?
Zero?
Ground Zero.
Mm-hmm.
And man, you're just making like a nice little trek around the coast. It's really nice to see.
Late in life comeback.
There you go. Let me tell you, there's no such thing as late in life. It's
That's
always,
right.
It's always life, man. But you, I remember when I was a kid and I was like starting, you'd pop in and where was it at? Manhattan Grill.
Manhattan Grill.
And you pop in there, but hey man, let's sing a song. So you come up on the mic and do your thing. So
and with your daddy.
That's right.
Who's a very good friend of mine.
yeah. So talk to us about. I want to hear your story about. I've been hearing. What is it? The whole billion. What's that bar called?
The Hole in the Wall.
Hole in the
Billy's
Wall.
Hole in the Wall. That was
Yeah.
a very famous.
Many people come up here and start talking
establishment
about that. Yeah.
that Billy had on Pass Road.
Yeah. So let's just talk to us about your story about music, and I know you're a lawyer, so let's just dive in.
Yeah. I knew this was coming up, so I kind of was trying to put a chronological bent to my responses. On my Facebook page, there's a picture of me, like I'm 4 years old in Wiesbaden, Germany, and I'm laying on the floor, sucking on my thumb with all these 45s strewn around the room, and one of those old-time record players, that had the top that closed and all that.
Right.
And I was listening to Elvis records because it was 1959 and Elvis was in Frankfurt and I was in Wiesbaden, and it's all I heard, this Mississippi boy.
Oh, that's
you know?
right. He was stationed over there.
Yeah. And so that's all I ever wanted to be,
So at that
Early
early
on.
age, you already knew that
yeah.
music was going to encompass your life in one form or the other.
I can't remember not singing, My mama used to sing to me when I was a little boy, sugar in the morning, sugar in the evening, sugar at supper time. And she had a sweet, beautiful voice. And I just started loving music. And from there, we got back over here and stuff. And I guess, 64, Beatles, Ed Sullivan, everybody's, but I wasn't a Beatles guy so much. I appreciated their pop artistry and all that, but I liked rough edge stuff, the Animals.
So you were more of there was always the two camps. There was always the Beatle camp and the Stones.
Stones.
Stones were the bad boys.
Yeah, but my favorite band was the Animals.
The Animals, yeah.
I loved the Animals, man. It was gritty R&B stuff.
Yeah.
And I had two older sisters, and I was the beneficiary of their largesse in giving me this musical education. Otis Redding, Sam Cooke, all the
all the Stax records, all the
Stax, yeah.
Atlantic was big on
Yeah. And
R&B.
around this time, Thomas Edwards, got to be great friends. We were about 11 years old, I guess. And we both wanted to play guitar, but Thomas was good at it. And I came from a family, we weren't poor, but we were pert near close to poor. So my daddy got me like a Zimgar guitar.
I don't
from a
even know.
pawn shop.
That one got past me.
Zimgar.
Is this one of those like the Sears thing, or Western Auto?
You know, I've posted about that Zimgar guitar before, and people have come back and said, "Hey, I had one."
Really?
Yeah, it was a guy at Guitar Center in Mobile too. I was telling him about it one time, and I had a Zimgar too, but mine, the action was about 80 inches off the neck, and the strings were all rusty, and I couldn't figure out, how do these people do this? And my little fingers were bleeding and all that.
Yeah.
And then I was like, Thomas is getting really good on guitar, and Mick Jagger didn't play guitar.
Blows a mean harp.
So all I wanted to be was a front man from that point on.
Real quick, though, that's an interesting point without meaning to, I guess, bringing that up, that it's for parents. It's a kind of this double-edged sword thing. As mom and dad, they're not sure what Junior is going to do or their little girl is going to do, or whomever these days. So they don't want to invest a lot of money in an instrument. And that's understandable. Don't want to sit there and then have to deal with it, dusting it off or whatever. But the problem with that is their cheap guitars are hard to play. And there's probably been, since the beginning of the instrument, at least in rock and roll era, there's probably been so many people that could have been good at it, but were fighting that obstacle to begin with. It's an interesting thought.
Yeah, but
mine was like that. My first guitar was like actions this high.
Yeah, but if you got that burning desire, and if you were put here on this planet to play the guitar,
well, that could be.
You'll play a stick of wood.
Yeah,
But anyway, so Thomas and I remember the first song we learned was "Here Come the Hurdy-Gurdy Man, singing songs of love."
Donovan.
So,
do you know who played guitar on that?
Jimmy Page.
That's right. And who was playing bass on that?
John Paul Jones.
That's right. The man knows what he's talking about. At least that's our
lucky.
era. So.
Very lucky. Well, and Thomas and I have talked about this a million times too. When we were little kids, like my daddy had a Blaupunkt stereo that he brought back from Germany, but that was his. You know what I mean? That was for him to put on Louis Primo.
I can relate.
Wonderland by Night and all that kind
Right.
of stuff. So I never really had anything. We had little cheap transistor radios and stuff, but we listened to WTIX,
Tiger
New
Radio.
Orleans. And I'm going to tell y'all, it was one amazing song after the other. It was ranged from Beatles, Stones, Kinks, Procol Harum, on that side, to Temptations, Diana Ross and the Supremes, Four Tops, and just great song after great song after great song. And I was thinking about it. Like I said, I did try and think a little bit before I came here today. I got my master's in English literature back in the day before I went to law school, and my concentration was the Romantic poets, Byron, Shelley, and Keats. So it's generally accepted that started off like in 1798, Wordsworth's lyrical ballads, and there was this creative explosion, and it was organic poetry, and it was poetry using everyday language and all that.
So up until that point in English literature, they hadn't had that. This was
No,
like
it'd
what
been
the beat
highly
poets did in the
formalistic.
50s.
It'd been highly formalistic.
I got you.
Okay. So I compare the flowering of music in the 60s, and I really, I'd say I'd use 55 to about 73. It was just a creative explosion. And I compare it back to that Romantic poetry period because there's never been another explosion of poetry since.
Right.
And that was 225 years ago.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so now I see everybody harkens back to the era in which I grew up. And, you know, I'm not saying it was better, but I'm saying it was better.
I understand. And I think you're absolutely right as far as the explosion of, I mean, it's went from a different direction after the war, you know, post-war America, you know, I mean, they were coming out of, it was very complacent. I mean, you know, finally after the war, you know, in Eisenhower years and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden, you know, you've got the crooners. We talked about that before, you know, the big bands. And then all of a sudden here's rock and roll and Little Richard and, you know, and then the white guys try to influence it with Pat Boone and those guys doing, you know, what's the Little Richard song? Good golly, Miss Molly.
Tutti Frutti.
Tutti Frutti. And
Tutti Frutti.
There's Pat Boone and his White Bucks, you know, Tutti Frutti. Oh, Rudy.
Oh, you've got the hinge.
Yeah, you got, hey, all right. Yeah, Andy Williams show.
There you go.
And I like those guys too in their place, but you know, but that's not rock and roll and that's not the explosion of it, like you said.
Right.
Music's evolved. I'm a huge fan, of course, of pre-40 and wartime, but music evolved because it had to. And I, of course, rock and roll comes out of that,
right?
That crooning feel, the big band feel, and it's just a natural thing. But so, I mean, that's why I'm a Frank Sinatra fan, but also I'm a huge Beatles or Eagles fan.
Sure,
because it all comes out of where the people want to hear it. It's amazing.
I think it's one of the best things you can be is well-rounded musically. I mean, why cut something off just for the sake of it's different?
And that's
whatever.
that's
always happened.
We came back to this. That's when people dictated, like the listeners dictated who was on the rise, who was not. Now it's, you know, it's changed, but
right.
I think to
good.
be a musician, to really call yourself a musician, you have an obligation to be a historian. So, you know, there's a lot of I heard a comedian the other night, maybe Stephen Colbert, talking about a Gen Xer saying, "Oh man, what are you talking about? That movie was made before I was born." Well,
yeah, right.
Well, so with music, you know, I really trace everything back to Louis Armstrong.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, there's stuff before him, but we just don't have the benefit of the recordings. But I told my son, who, you know, showed promise on guitar and stuff, son, when you hear a song that you like, find out that musician's influences and then go back and listen to them and then find out their influences and see how everybody stood on the shoulders of giants, you know.
That's true.
And they still do. You know, it's like, that's why I appreciate what you do so much, Jesse, because, you know, what a incredible period of music, 40s, you know. I can listen to it all day and you kill it. You know?
Appreciate it. I
remember.
Agree.
I remember when he was first coming to Manhattan Grill and stuff, and I was like, damn. Then I found out Bill was his dad, and he went, well, that's where the talent is. Yeah.
Right. Well, especially, you know, that brings in the social aspect of music and influencing, you know, certainly the war. And, you know, it's like now, if you look at, not to switch gears a minute, but like movies. You know, my wife and I went to the movie a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, to see whatever it was. And the previews, I'm watching the previews and I'm thinking it's a reflection of society. 90% of them were fantasy, escapism, something that isn't real, you know, and okay, that, you know, the Marvel stuff and all that thing. It's like, it's
a horrible state of affairs right now.
It is. It's in disarray. It's terrible, you know, and people just want to be entertained one way or the other and forget about it, at least for an hour or 2 hours, you know.
I saw an article the other day about closed captioning and how a lot of people are using closed captioning all the time, not because they can't hear, but it's their only way they can try and focus and keep attention on the movie as it goes along.
What's crazy is that's crazy.
You do that?
I actually have the captions on everything because sometimes I'm zoning out or something and it'll help me. Yeah. Oh yeah. I've been using closed captions for years.
Really?
I use it too. Just because also, you know, like at my house, I've got a 7-channel stereo system built in and all that kind of stuff. But dialogue, there's a generation of actors that have come along now because of advances in microphone technology for actors. You wear your clip-ons and all that. Well, it's encouraged a generation of actors to kind of mumble a little bit when they're, kind of morose and all that. And dialogue just drops out. And then the next scene, boom!
Yeah, right in your face.
You're like, God damn.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'd never thought of using, to me, having...
That's why we should hang around more.
Yes. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what you said. But to me, being the odd man out with this, my take on it would be that it would be distracting. Whereas obviously it's not, because you guys are getting something out of it, but I'd be like trying to, and looking at the picture.
Well, at first, like when I started dating my wife, I was like, can we turn these off? And so we would turn them off, but then we would have this problem where this movie was made for, Dolby X or whatever. And we got the little, we're listening through the TV. We're poor. We're, just kids. And so I started putting the caption on. But also I learned this too. I'm on my second child. One's 5, one's going to be 2. When they're sleeping and you still want to watch that movie, you turn that thing low and you just watch some captions. That's where. It's gotten beneficial.
I used to have wireless headphones when my kids were small and stuff, and my healthy wife was always asleep early, and I was wanting to watch movies. You just put the wireless Sennheisers and hey. So.
And speaking of, like, when it comes to like motion pictures and movies and just entertainment, like music is not just what's on the radio. I mean, you watch a movie, and without that music, we've talked about this before, it is bland. There's no emotional feel. Like music makes, to me, the sound, the music makes the movie.
Absolutely.
There's no better director to underscore that point than Scorsese. Mm-hmm. His music selection is so perfectly plotted to the ongoing action.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the scene in Goodfellas when
Rags to Riches.
Ray Liotta is like they're coming to get me.
The paranoia and the cocaine and the choppers.
Was it Layla? What was it?
During that I don't remember that. He's good at Scorsese was always good at juxtaposing the like something upbeat in a very sad situation.
Mm-hmm.
John Williams and
Hans Zimmer.
No, the director, the big one.
Shoot.
Spielberg.
Yeah, Spielberg.
Spielberg's very hands-on with the music. I can't believe I couldn't remember his name. Don't tell him I said that.
Hopefully this won't reach him.
But I was watching a clip of a Scorsese movie the other night. It's the one, The Bronx Tale, I think it is.
Oh, it's a good movie.
Yeah, and where the bikers go into the thing and he closes. Now you can't leave, he says. They're being all badass. But it's this kind of 50 doo-wop, whatever song it was in the back, and they're beating the crap out of each other.
Or Reservoir Dogs.
Reservoir Dogs, all
Stuck
of those.
in the middle with you.
Yeah, right. It's all those.
That dance scene was improvised by that.
Oh, is that
actor.
right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Great movie.
But anyway, back
But
to
all
me.
that stuff. Yes.
There you go.
It's all on you, Mr. Red Tie. Yes.
So I don't know, what are we, like 11 years old, whatever. And I started getting into like motorcycles and all that kind of stuff. And Thomas and I always saw each other, but he went to Michelle Junior High and I went to Fernwood and all that. And then when we were probably around 16 or so, Thomas had a rock and roll band. And Thomas was just a fiery lead guitar player. I mean, everybody on the coast recognized, even at that early age, how great he was. Mm-hmm. And he wanted me to come audition for this band that he was doing. And I think it was Tony
Miguez?
No, Tony Miguez is mine. What was that?
Tony Alambro?
Gagliano.
Oh, Tony Gagliano, Ocean Springs.
Okay. So they bring me over there, and my audition song, and keep in mind, I'm from a Blue-Eyed Soul background, I'm not a Led Zeppelin singer by any means. Stairway to Heaven.
No.
And I sucked. Oh, man. And they gently ushered me out the door and everything. And any other man would have been crushed. His dreams would have laid flat on the floor. But no, instead I went off, went in the Navy, and all
That's
that.
right. I forgot you were in the service. Right.
So anyway, you originally this diatribe started with a question about Billy's Hole in the Wall. I was getting out of the Navy. I spent my last 2.5 years at the CB base because my job down in Pensacola, where I was first stationed, I joined on my 17th birthday, so I'm 17 years old down there. And my job was doing transfers between stations and all that. And I got to be friends with this guy up in D.C., and I said, I'm going home to Biloxi every weekend. I mean, at that time, the Fiesta was huge, and, you know.
The Vapors and all
yeah, and, you know, it's 1972, 73, and everybody's hair is down the middle of their back. And I was like, I might as well be home. Next week, man, the Navy did my bidding and sent me to the CB base for that last 2.5 years.
Oh.
But anyway, so I'm about to get out, and there was a little joint called the Speakeasy. And I started dating this girl whose brother owned it. And he got in trouble with state tax commission, sales tax and all that. And I had leave pay saved up. And I'm 20 years old. I'm not even old enough to own the bar yet. I said, I'll go in halves with you. I'll pay your back taxes and all that. And in that 6-month period that we were partners, I'm not going to detail exactly the things that he did, but we had fights, guns, things like that. And I went to Boyce Holloman, the great attorney down here, on my 21st birthday. And I told him what had been going on. I said, I want it by myself. He said, Billy, I'm going to give it to you for $200 a month, and I never want to hear from you again. In other words, you take care of everything that goes on there. So that's 76. So I'm 21. My 21st birthday, I opened that up. And we started having jam sessions. And the famous story Thomas will tell you, I always needed him to have the jam, you know, because Thomas can play anything, a million songs. And one time Thomas said, I'm not coming up there unless you come over and mow my lawn. That's Thomas Edwards. And damn if I didn't go over there
and mow his
lawn and say, all right, now let's get up to the bar.
Oh, that's a great story. That's a Thomas story.
So,
he wanted to get something out of the deal.
Oh, Thomas, man. You know,
oh, that's great.
I love Thomas so much. He's like, you know, as closer than my own brother was to me. And, you know, when I write songs and stuff, if I've written my lyrics well enough, the melody suggests itself to me, you know. So I call Thomas over and I sing it to him. And in 5 minutes, we have a chord structure, just everything. And then by the time you go to record, he's playing the bass, he's playing the lead guitar, the rhythm, doing this, doing that. He makes it very, very easy. But anyway, so the jam sessions begat my band Footloose. And let me caution you, this was 1977. Way before the damn movie.
I'm about to say, yeah. So you beat him to it.
Way before the damn movie.
You beat him to it. We need some royalties over here.
I took it from...
they stole from you.
Well, I took it from that line, At Her Feet was a Footloose Man from the Stones song. But anyway, so that was Tony Miguez. Well, not originally. I forgot to tell you. Little Tony Miguez, Rat Miguez.
Yeah.
He started coming up to the jam sessions when he was 15. And he was from the Point, man, and we'd all been hearing about this phenom and stuff. And by the time he was 17, we replaced one of the guitar players with Rat and brought him out on the road with us. And
I've heard of his name recently, actually. I think my dad.
He's like Billy said, he's been a really good player. Good guy.
Yeah. Oh,
he's
yeah.
a good guy.
Wonderful guy. And born to be on the stage.
Yes.
I mean, you know, but my other guitar player was a guy named Ray Catt that Hank might remember.
Trying to place Ray.
Ray was so good, Johnny Hosey used to come see us
Is that right?
to try and figure out how he was doing stuff. Ultimate compliment.
Yeah.
You know? But anyway, Wayne Mitchell on drums, Rick Gamard on bass and stuff.
I know Rick.
we played together a couple years or whatever. Back in the days when you had a massive PA system.
Oh, yeah.
You had one truck just designated for PA and one truck for the rest of us.
Yeah.
And our final gig was in Lafayette, Louisiana. Not Lafayette, Port. Well,
In Louisiana?
Just outside of Lafayette.
Okay.
So, it's a long ass drive.
Yeah, it is.
2 trucks and all that. We get over there. It's a guy named Pookie Marceau owned the joint. It was huge. And he had an apartment above the club. And it was like Southwest Louisiana's homecoming night or something. And nobody came to the club. They were at whatever.
Right.
So he brings me up to his apartment. And he says, let's get high. So we smoked some pot. And he said, Billy, I don't know how to tell you this, but I can't pay you. But you give me your address. I'll send you the money. And I said, let's bring the rest of the band up here and get them high. But that was the final straw.
The music biz. Got to love it.
Oh, man. The band broke up, and my heart was so broken that I just, my agent out of New Orleans, Big J Productions, put me with a band called Toys, T-O-Y-Z, which was, there was Zebra, and then Footloose was his second band in that stable, and then Toys. The lead singer had been arrested for knocking over a convenience store.
It's tough being a musician, man. Making ends meet.
So,
Keep your gun clean.
So I went and rehearsed with him down the warehouse district for like a week, and we had a 6-night job at Fat City, some club down there.
Yeah, Fat City.
And on Friday night, I said, all right, man, I'll see y'all tomorrow night. But as I was driving away, I went, I'm never going to be in a band where the keyboard player sings immigrant song like, we've come from the land of the ice and snow, midnight sun. I cringed every damn time. I was like, can y'all not hear this?
Sounds like a German drinking song. Or a Scandinavian one.
So I quit. I quit.
Wait a minute, you never went back to do the gig?
No, I didn't go back to
Billy,
Saturday night.
No,
no, because I quit the music business. I just said,
it wasn't
hell
just
with
the band; it was
the whole business.
That was
I went back.
bad performance.
I went to school for the night.
Land of the ice. I got to learn that song just to sing it like that and drive Billy up a wall.
Oh man.
Anyway, so I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So I spent the next 9 straight years in school, but before I went off to school and stuff, that massive PA system I had, I sold it to a fellow named Clyde Holly. You remember
Clyde had the recording studio down here.
Right.
Had a hit song of Biloxi, recorded a song of Biloxi.
Well, his band's name was Biloxi.
Was that what was
And
this?
they were huge in Japan. They really were.
Of course they were.
I guess with my PA system.
Yeah, it's probably what was the creme de la creme.
But the worst part about it, I swear to God, I think just my power rack probably was like $7,500 worth of stuff. I sold everything for $1,500.
Oh my gosh!
Giant Altec Lansing
Oh,
voice
wow.
of the theaters as crossfire monitors behind the front PA. I mean, and then the front PA was like stacks of JBL.
Wow.
And, oh man! But anyway, Clyde took it and did well. So,
Good.
So I
How
was
about that?
yeah.
It's funny. No, you're talking about the equipment and all. And all equipment back then, Jesse, weighed a ton and was so huge. I mean, it was just cumbersome. And that's one of the things I found out. Again, I found all kinds of equipment I had that, man, I mean, like those old PV speakers, the SP1s and 2s, that these things weighed a ton.
My dad, when I got started, I was actually using Coast's old equipment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when, of course, Bose and stuff came out. But I remember how
it was
heavy it was. But also a lot of that older equipment, I don't know if maybe even your system, it's probably made in America being back that far.
Yeah.
That was before.
Yeah, it was like Crown Power amps.
Yeah.
and-
It was
Yeah. I mean,
probably
that's
before
heavy
the-
duty stuff, what Billy had.
It probably still works today.
I was doing a solo.
Probably
oh yeah,
somewhere.
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
I was doing a solo duo, and we used to play David M's on the beat,
Mhm.
and I felt bad for those bar backs because they're going to bring the equipment in, and I knew how much it weighed. I had one case that my buddy and I, Jeff, had built. We called it the coffin. It had these Phillips screws and it had nothing but racks, because back then all the sequencing was monophonic, so you didn't have polyphonic, one thing that would do all the different sounds. This one was for drums, that was bass, that was keyboards. And
Oh,
those
wow.
guys would struggle with that thing and get it up there, and it was like, oh. But thankfully,
You saying David M's reminds me of something, Hank. When you were booking bands at David M's, so I quit. What was that, like 1980 or 81?
yeah.
And go back to school and stuff. I come back out of law school. Now Billy's Hole in the Wall, and if there's any tax people listening, the statute of limitation.
He
Must
should
have
know
run.
he's an attorney.
Yes.
But that first year, I couldn't believe how much money. I mean, just and very minimal taxes
Yes.
on it. But
Seductive.
where was I going with that?
Speaking of taxes, it's about to be tax season, so if you need any pointers, call Billy. No.
No, I'm the last person to talk to. But anyway, so I came back here, and the reason I was talking about Billy's and making good money early, when I got out of law school, I my hair was down the middle of my back, and wasn't no white shoe like insurance defense firms going to hire me,
Mhm.
and I was never going to work for them anyway because I consider that the evil side of law. Defending banks and corporations
The
and
monsters.
insurance companies. Insurance companies are the focus of evil in the modern world. But
I mean, you could actually have a lot of talks. I would love that.
oh man, yeah. But so I come to work for Levi and Denham here in Ocean Springs, $400 a week, and my student loans were $600 a month. And I had a little issue house, and I was like, this doesn't compute and everything. So I quit, and I moved in with this girl that was a tattoo artist at California Tattoo Studio. And I went down to Mississippi Music. Eddie McDaniel was working down there,
Mhm.
and bought another huge PA system. And she made great cash money every night, came home with cash. So I said, baby, my music will pay for the $600 a month PA note. So Thomas and I put together a band called Hearts and Minds. Well, how Hank figures into this is it was Mardi Gras time, and we had been hired to play on a float, like on a Sunday. And Saturday night was a great night. I mean, I just had a lot of fun. So I just went straight to the float from Saturday night.
Oh, boy.
And the people with that crew just wanted me to sing All Right Now over and over and over.
Oh,
All through that cold parade route at the top of my range. So
doing your Paul Rogers and screeching it out. Oh,
Hank had booked us at David M's, which was a great club at the time. And it was 6 weeks later, and the only songs I could sing was Rumors Spread Round about that Texas town. I couldn't do anything.
your
but
voice
sing
was still
Texas.
stripped from
Oh God, it was. I was afraid I'd just blown it up permanently.
Oh, no. Oh, boy. Yeah. I think we've all had that. Maybe you haven't. You're might have skated that, but had the brown-eyed girls. The thing. Just play it again.
Oh.
Do it again.
Oh,
All right now. And you're right. That's not an easy song to sing by any means.
My song that I've been requested to sing 3, sometimes 4, is My Way.
I had a feeling.
New York. Usually those two. Somebody is about to. I walk in. I'm getting started. It's like my 3rd or 4th song. And they're like, "Hey, can you sing me My Way before I leave?" So I'll sing My Way, and then they leave, and then somebody else comes in. "Hey, can you sing My Way?" And
Isn't that a drag? How people don't know the greatest music by artists? Like, in other words, I'm a Van Morrison fanatic. I
Mhm.
mean, to me, the greatest blue-eyed soul singer that ever lived, and
when I hear you sing, I think of Van Morrison.
that's
Seriously.
that's the highest compliment you could give.
Seriously,
me, man.
when I hear you sing,
appreciate
I'm just
that.
like, he's got that Van Morrison-esque
Mhm.
feel. And anyways,
man,
go
if I was half as good, and could have written half of the songs, but a lot of times you tell people Van Morrison, and they go Brown Eyed Girl,
Mhm.
and I go Astral Weeks is one of the 5 best albums ever recorded,
Mhm.
ever, and they recorded in 3 days.
Mhm.
It just drives me crazy. And so Frank Sinatra, that
Oh yeah.
They want to hear.
But those songs also, for whatever reason, it might be something that happened in their life that they associate the song with. I mean, we don't know the backstory with it as well. Yes, there are better. Well, I don't say there's a better song than that. And maybe if you hadn't heard Brown Eyed Girl or My Way 10,000 times, you might have a different take on it to think back to it.
Hey, bartender, set up another round.
Oh yeah, that's One for My Baby, One for the Road.
Yeah, that's a great song.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah,
That's
Sinatra.
1949. He came out with that.
What is it? It was in the movie Blade Runner, the second Blade Runner. They featured that song.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I never watched it.
Probably Piscopo did it on.
It probably did.
Saturday
Probably
Night Live.
did.
No, but it was
That's a great song.
it's a great song. Now see, Moondance by Van Morrison. Bublé remade that, and so when I heard it for the first time, it was Michael Bublé. So I was like,
Really?
man, this is a swinging song. I'm listening to it, and then I type it in, and it's like Van Morrison. Can I just have one? And I was like, wow, you know.
Well, remember Eric Watkins, good friend, since passed away. Played with
Real
Hosey and
gone.
them. Yeah,
He just loves singing that.
he was the real deal. Played with Boskag. Played a lot of studio in the country was happening over there in Bogalusa. A lot of big names like Muscle Shoals. But anyway, but his two heroes were Ray Charles and Van Morrison. And he could play any of that at any time. It's like, let's do it, because he and I did a duo for a while, and we had Gene Houston playing drums on the beach at Nickelnoff's.
I remember that.
And that was so much fun. But he was a great bass player, just really cool guy. And Van Morrison was the man.
I'd be remiss too if I didn't point out a blessing that we had here on the coast. This was probably 1978. A huge nightclub owned by the Thornton family opened up called The Factory.
That's right,
And
on the
Thornton,
point.
Yeah, and I'd grown up with the Thorntons, Robbie Thornton and Greg Thornton, Joe Love Thornton. And this place you walk through, it was a converted seafood.
It's a factory, cannery.
Factory.
Oh, that's cool.
And the restaurant itself was just cool as could be. But you walk through it, and there's this huge patio on the outside, big enough for about 600 people, and they had a barge that was abutted the patio area, and seating on the barge, and then a tilted down stage. I mean, when I say tilted down, I mean it was like on a 10-degree slope.
Right.
And this was back when I'm in my 20s, and so I'm twirling around, jumping, and all this. I don't know how I didn't.
So was most of the audience.
I didn't. Oh yeah. Red'd get his wireless guitar, and we'd walk through the audience, and people were just handing us stuff. But what I say, I'd be remiss in saying, in not saying, is the coast was blessed. There was a great band called Heater.
Mm-hmm.
Debbie Stambro, the front man,
Yeah.
and the Hoyt brothers, and they kicked ass.
Yeah.
She was a great front man.
Yeah.
And then Magic
Yeah.
with Mike Jackson, who is one of my favorite singers
Yeah.
ever down here.
We did some gigs together too, Mike and I.
Oh, yeah.
He was with Little David and the Giants.
Oh, he could wail, couldn't he?
Ooh.
And Brillo was in it.
Yeah, Brillo
Kippy.
playing bass.
And then George Mills, Johnny Hosey band.
Yeah, yeah.
And then my band. And we would alternate weekends, and we all got the door. This is 1978. $5 a head. $3,000 a night. Friday night, Saturday night. I weep for the musicians of today.
Mm-hmm.
The kids that are out there right now, there ain't those opportunities anymore.
They don't have those kind of clubs don't exist. I mean, those kind of bars.
And nothing's
whatever.
been adjusted for inflation. Hey,
Yes,
if we paid you 50,
that is
paid
true.
you $50 a head in 1978,
You're getting $50.
it's like, damn.
Yeah,
we
no,
should
you're
use-
right.
We should unionize.
No, we don't want to do that either.
Just playing.
Just on the side. No, but you're right. There was people wanted those kind of places.
Yeah.
This is before karaoke, and this is before DJs were what they are.
And we were the pig and the python too, the
Yeah.
baby boomer generation.
Yeah.
We were all hitting that age at the same time.
Right.
And rock and roll, to make a fortune with a rock and roll club, all you had to find was a rectangular building, put a stage on one end, a bar running down the side, open up the door, and charge them $5 a head.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, and now I would say the only proper stage that I can think of is
Ground Zero.
Ground Zero.
Yeah, Ground Zero.
Stagecoach, I will say, before Ground Zero, at least their stage was elevated.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
That's something I will say, that places I play at today,
And that makes a difference. Elevated
and I won't say names,
Yeah.
but it would make sense if we had a stage.
Mhm.
You know,
sure.
Well, even when there's not music going on, as if somebody's in there and say, "Oh, they'll know you have music. They'll see the stage."
Because a lot of people,
curiosity.
Because a lot of people, I'll just say it right now, at the Pearl, a lot of people on the other side of the wall, I'll be singing, and I've told you this, I've sung the songs thousands of times, so I know how to do the inflections, and I don't overbear it, so it does sound like background music. Because people are talking and stuff, and as they're getting up for the meal, they're seeing somebody singing. They're like, "Dude, you've been singing this whole time? I thought that was the radio," but they don't know, because when they walk in, it's dark and on ground level. So.
But sometimes that's not a bad thing. It's like we had discussed before.
It's not bad, but I would one day like.
I'm too much of a diva.
Well,
it pisses me off if people are out there talking and stuff. I'm like, I'm bearing my soul. I have a pinched nerve at the bottom of my rib cage, and I'm hitting high notes.
See, they don't understand you. You're an artist.
That's right.
You don't understand me, man. I'm an artist.
You just don't get me,
man.
You
don't get it, man.
I'm leaving home.
That's right. I'm running away from home at 75.
And also,
yes, I have the mortgage on it, but that's not the point.
That's right.
I have a good idea.
Where's my depends?
I have a good idea, and I'm going to throw this out there. And whoever does it. But I've been hearing all these stories from other musicians, and you were talking about this is the first time I've heard the Factory. But
the Factory was cool.
Billy's Hole in the
Change
Wall.
the Eden, Mick.
But what I'm saying is, imagine if there was a place around here that was like a bar or a restaurant or something that pays homage to all those places in the past.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Gulf Coast. And you call it something to where it's about, the good old days or something. But when you walk in there's pictures of local musicians all
Boy,
over.
I wonder if those pictures exist.
Y'all,
That'd be a cool
after
idea.
Johnny Hosey died, let me back up before I talk about Johnny.
Mm-hmm.
So I was off stage for about 20 years. I got married, and I'd been retired until I was like 38.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get married till I was 38. I think I had a pair of blue jeans and a suit, and a little 78 280Z when I got married. And I was like, man, I've got a beautiful wife. I want to have children and stuff. I got to work,
Mm-hmm.
So I worked and worked and worked and worked. Well, all good things must come to an end. So after about 13 years of great marriage, Katrina hit, and I was like, I think I'll become a wine connoisseur. I hadn't had like a beer in 13 years.
Right.
And my wife is, yoga and is the most healthy, beautiful woman in the world. And after that decision to become a wine connoisseur, a month later, I bought Mosaic, the little lounge downtown. Yeah. So Arturo and I were partners and brought in great music and all that kind of stuff. But so I'd been off stage for about 20 years, and I'd written a song back in like 1990 at the old Bombay Bicycle Club in the most cliche fashion possible. A verse came to me, and I got a cocktail napkin.
There you go.
I got the first verse down. It was called Ain't Supposed to Be This Way. And it was eerily prescient of the breakup of my marriage.
Oh.
And I'd written it, 5 years before I even met my wife.
Oh, wow.
So Glenn Mattina heard it. He's a promoter and all that. And he said, Billy, why don't you do like a benefit show at the Beau Rivage? And he got me the big studio there, where they call it a Magnolia Studio. And he said, yeah, your band can play and all that. I was like, yeah, okay. I didn't have no damn band. It ain't supposed to be this way. It was me and Thomas.
Right.
So I called Thomas and I said, man, we got to put together a band. So we got Johnny Hosey, who most folks, for all around guitar playing, mastery, Thomas is my guy. But Johnny Hosey as a lead guitar player, I don't think anybody approached him. His playing just wrung every bit of emotion out of that fretboard, and just a great guy and great on stage. Then Daryl Brown to play the B3, Pat McGinley, the great drummer, Josh Fall on bass, who's the go-to bass player.
Josh is a good player.
Yeah. A chick from Nashville, session singer up there, and a chick from a black gospel church. So I had two backup female vocalists. Anyway, we went down there and it was kind of strange. Like the newspaper back at the time had the marquee and all that, and they did this big article, "The Return of Billy Miller." Like, I think this is a little overblown, y'all.
Hey, Carnegie said there's no such thing as bad publicity.
That's right. Take it.
Oh, I did run with it, you
Yeah.
know. That.
Was
But,
this the beginning of the Soul
that
Savants?
that was the first Soul Savants band.
Which I always told Billy I thought that is the greatest name for a band. The
Yeah,
Soul
yeah. Who,
Savants.
we mentioned it, and somebody was like, "Man, that's a really good name."
That's a
Hey,
great name for a
Thanks,
band.
man. You know how I came up with that? I had soul, and I kept putting something with soul, and finally, oh, Savants.
How the hell did you come up with Savants though with soul? Soul
know-
power, soul food, soul,
Well,
you know, Savant.
in the old days, we used to call folks idiot savants that were only good like at one thing.
That's right.
Like Glenn Gould on the piano, you know, just could play anything on the piano
Right.
here at one time. Well, soul savant
Heard
is
that
only
term.
good at soul. You know, everything else, maybe generally in life, we're not doing so well.
I see what you're saying, and okay. I see. I didn't even get that. That's really cool. The idiot savant thing. I haven't heard that term in so long, but
Yeah.
yeah, soul savant. They're only. Yeah, I like that. That doubles up. Yeah, that's cool.
And my wife, you know, even though you're out of the music business and stuff, you'll be driving around and stuff. Hey, this is a good name for a band, blah, blah, blah. And it was always something and the, and she'd go, Billy, no bands are called that anymore. Nobody says and the, blah.
Eric Burden and the Animals.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, well, that was still the 60s. You know?
Right.
And it was the Animals first, and then Eric got a little.
Well, how many times
big
did that
for his
happen?
britches.
Gary Puckett in the Union Gap. All
Yeah.
these bands in
Well,
the 60s.
I mean, now it's maybe needs a comeback. I think that needs to come back.
there's always that circle, you know, things, what goes around comes around, and maybe that will. Maybe what we're talking about, maybe somebody will open up a place like what you're talking about.
Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet
And
Band.
the Silver Bullet Band.
Bruce Springsteen and the E
And the-
Street Band.
Yeah.
But
On
But
off night, he's the D Street Band, but I think it's the E Street.
it all depends if it's open tuning.
That's right. And the low E Band.
But anyway, we raised like $40,000 that night for charity.
Was this at
Beau Rivage?
Beau Rivage.
Beau Rivage? Wow.
Yeah. And then I own Mosaic. So we used to do this thing called Mayfest where we would close down Government Street and get Sound Associates out of Mobile to put a stage on one end of the street and a stage on
remember
the
that.
other end and have bands all day long, you know. So we went and headlined that and then, you know, I got it out of my system, you know. I was like, gosh, you know, Hank, musicians are a pain in the ass.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
I'll tell you how bad it is. We went to do that Ground Zero show. It's a 2-hour show, and when I do a show, I don't take breaks and stuff. I just it's like a concert format. So about a month ahead of time, I got everybody the music, and I kept going, okay, rehearsals and all that. Zero rehearsal.
Yep.
Zero rehearsal. And that band sounded like they'd been together 20
Buddy had told me
Years.
that before. He goes, man, I don't know what the hell we're going to do. He goes, we haven't had any rehearsals, but they have they're quality musicians.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just
And
tell
that-
them the key and
and
they're
that's-
off and running.
That's what I want to
Dang.
make sure I said, too.
yeah.
I have been blessed. I mean, from the very beginning of being in bands, of always having the top musicians around, or at least in my eyes and everything. And it just makes it so much easier on a front man because the musicians can carry you.
Oh, absolutely.
You're not going to have a great vocal night every night,
Right.
particularly if you got to sing more than one night in a row, which I don't think I could do anymore.
Well, it can always fall back on all right now.
Or just pre-record my voice.
Mac Taylor. My buddy Mac. Love Mac Taylor.
But at least you're smart enough, or not, no, I wouldn't say even smart enough. Like, I mean, we know you're smart, but I'm saying to surround yourself with the best, in your opinion, like the best musicians
Mhm.
that you can.
Conducive to what you're doing and make it easy.
And then Scott Henson, he's the one who said, you know, the best advice I can give someone is surround yourself with people who are better than you because it's going to elevate yourself.
Exactly.
So-
Exactly. That was sort of the concept of Soul Savants. It was like an honorary position. you
Yeah.
know, and I thank Thomas mostly for that. But of course Johnny and Daryl were old friends of mine. But anyway, the way that all came about was when Johnny died, I posted something about, there's a Mississippi Music Hall of Fame, and unless you're from Jackson or northward, you ain't in it.
That's true. I never
Oh,
thought
wow.
of that. That's true.
And so I said, we should have like a local musicians Hall of Fame. And Mayor Billy Hughes over in Gulfport saw it, and he called me and he said, Billy, man, I've got the building for you and all this. This is right before COVID. And it was the old train depot downtown. And so, man, we put together a committee and met once a month. And, well,
I see where this is going.
I was like, things don't get done that way. You know what I mean? When you have a vision, it's got to be, somebody ramrodding it and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Then COVID came along and it just kind of dissipated.
Mm-hmm.
But my thought was, and I've probably told Hank to his face before, I have so much respect for the courage that it takes musicians to give their lives to bringing joy to people. It's not a path to, you're not doing it for money.
No.
You're doing it because you love music.
And I don't even think that's that many musicians set out with that goal. I think it just is part of it. It's the love of music.
Right.
I mean, that's it.
But a
The
lot
love
of
of music,
But a lot
period.
of folks love music.
That's right.
But they ain't got the courage to say, I'm devoting my life to it.
Yeah.
My saying about it is, you're not a Gulf Coast musical legend until we've passed the hat to bury you.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds sad, but it's true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah. We've had a lot of great musicians down here on the coast. A lot of characters. Still do. I mean, not to say that they're not still around, but man, some of the stories of the old some of those guys, and we were babies. Billy and I were the young ones coming up when these guys had already, Ray Fourniers and
David Dudley,
Dave Dudley. Oh yeah, all those guys.
Wayne
And-
Sharp. I
Well,
can't
we had
believe I
Wayne.
didn't mention Wayne.
Yeah, Wayne.
We got
What a-
Wayne Sharp. Actually, we interviewed him last
a
week.
two-parter.
We're still finishing that editing up, but it's
Yeah.
a good one.
Wayne, in 1965, I'm 10 years old. I used to run around with my sister Kathy, and I'll never forget. He came to Corley Street there out in West Biloxi and pulled up in his psychedelic painted hearse, which was
He
their,
talked about the hearse,
which was their band equipment.
Right.
thing.
Yeah, he did mention that.
the Neil Young School of
He gets
Hearse.
out of this thing. He's a toothpick. He's this big
still
around.
is.
And he's got long blonde hair down the middle of his back. And I said, God damn, that's what I'm going to be. I tell Wayne that all the time. I've always called him my big brother, and he said, I can't believe that I'm the one that set you on the roads that you've been on, Billy. But I love
Oh,
him.
that's great.
Oh,
That's good stuff.
He's such a good guy, and he is a black man in white
Oh,
skin. He
yeah.
is a soul brother
Oh, yeah. And look,
and true to form.
when I owned Mosaic, I remember him coming to play up there. His son, Miles Sharp, has a little band that they put together.
Mhm.
And Wayne was going to come be special guest. And I'll never forget him pulling up and wrestling that B3.
I can't imagine.
B3s are huge.
And they
Sounds-
weighed
Right.
1,000
And then there's
pounds.
Leslie. you
Yeah,
know,
the
all
Leslie
that.
cabinet.
And I swear he didn't weigh 125 pounds, But that night, George Mills was there too.
Uh-huh.
And George and Wayne and I, with Miles' band backing, did Tupelo Honey. And that was like a transcendent experience.
Well, I can only imagine with that B3 and his chops.
And George,
And
back.
George,
So,
yeah. We should get George on the show too. George is.
Elaine Stevens, who's
Oh,
daddy
yeah, yeah.
on Gus Stevens.
I knew, and her brother. I knew that. one of my first
Yeah,
gigs was
yes.
at
The old
Stevens
groceries.
Hot Grocery.
Right.
Right
right.
up the.
Well, her brother-in-law was there that night that Wayne and George and I did that, and he wrote the greatest letter to the editor about how he had been to Paris. They just come from Paris, watching master chefs, doing their artistry,
Right.
and we've come to this little place in Ocean Springs, and we got to see masters at work.
Wow, that's a high
Oh,
compliment.
it's the best a compliment ever. And at the end of it, he goes, nobody in that building needed to go to church Sunday morning because they had been to
schooled,
church.
right?
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. Talking about Johnny and Daryl. Daryl, phenomenal keyboard player. Just I was lucky enough playing a couple bands with him as well at Island View. But he did tracks. And I have a couple of his tracks. I think one of the things, R&B stuff, Allman Brothers, he was great at that. But he was really good also. Another thing, forte was New Orleans music. He had the chops. He had that New Orleans, Neville Brothers, Funky Meter stuff down. And I have a couple tracks that I still use. I use Hey Pocky Way, and I do Second Line, and I do another one. I can't remember what it is.
About Sneakin' Sally.
Yeah, Sneakin' Sally. Yeah, you're right. And so when I do my gigs and I play those songs, he's not gone. He's with me, and I hear him, and he's playing. And it's Daryl. It is Daryl, and that makes me feel good that he's. And I tell people that
when we did the Mayfest show, which was the second Soul Savant show, the first one Daryl played a keyboard that kind of emulated a B3, but for the second one, Daryl had kind of fallen on hard times and. He'd sold his damn B3, I rented a B3 from Sound Associates for that show for him to play.
Did you really?
Yeah, because
that's awesome.
He deserved it.
Yeah.
And, by that time, his health was getting to the point where, we were worried about him being able to come up the steps to the stage and everything.
He was in bad shape.
But God, what a monster
talent. And a nice guy. He was such a sweetheart of a guy. I saw him, if it wasn't the first night, it was one of the first nights when he came down. I think he was originally from Birmingham or somewhere in upstate Alabama. But Joe Zapata had expanded the Zapata's Revolution from a trio and he was playing at the Gringo's room.
Mm-hmm.
The Gringo room. Gringo or Gringo?
Zapata's Revolution.
Gringo. Yeah. And Daryl was on keyboards, and Daryl had long hair, this is early 70s stuff. And he had that voice, Stevie Winwood stuff, Traffic, all that stuff. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I remember just sitting there. I can still see it, the stage. I can see Joe and them up there, and just watching Daryl going, "Holy crap, this guy is so good and
I can still see George Mills sleeping on my couch on Pass Road in Biloxi back when it had Billy's Hole in the Wall.
Is that right?
I mean, that's how far back we go. And I hadn't seen George for like over 20 years.
Yeah.
And I was leaving the gym at the IP, and I'm pulling out, and he's loading into Studio A. I went, George. And we started talking, and, well, what's happening? And I said, yeah, I got a little redheaded son named Wyatt. And he went, I've got a redheaded son named Wyatt.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was a cool moment.
That is a cool moment.
And we should really note, too, the massive talent that George Mills is.
Yeah, George.
My God, you talk about a soulful singer. And George Mills, Johnny Hosey Band, little power trio.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, I met George originally. I was working, I was in high school, and I hadn't started playing clubs, obviously, yet. But I was working at Newsom's Music at Edgewater Mall. And Newsom's Music was there was two of them. There was the Something Mine, Record Mine or something on one end, and it was Newsom's. Well, Newsom's was the big one. And we had all the musicians came in to get their 45s, and we had a really good stock of albums and what was happening, and a bunch of knuckleheads. So we had a lot of fun with that. But George and Elaine Stevens, and I forget,
Barbara from
the keyboard player, the guy, he wore glasses, Ken Dodge.
Yeah.
Ken Dodge.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice man. But they used to come in and get their 45s. And George was like, I think he caught the same train that Thomas did, because they see the world differently. They're on a different path than everybody else. And that's what struck me first about George. And he was such a nice guy. And then I'd never seen him play at that point. I'm 16 years old, whatever. And it was like, oh my gosh. He's good, and Elaine can sing, and man,
I feel like I'm
Elaine Smith. Excuse me, not
I
Steve.
feel like I'm a Thomas whisperer. There are so many musicians that tell me, God, Thomas, man, he's intimidating.
Is he intimidating?
well, other musicians are, because Thomas, he's a stern taskmaster, right? And,
Well, yeah, he's
really
got vision.
and tempo, man. He is a taskmaster about tempo, but a lot of people don't know how to take him,
Absolutely.
And I've just known him for so long
Absolutely.
and stuff. His family background is English,
Yes.
so a dry wit is part of his national heritage.
There's Dry Wit and there's Thomas Witt. Thomas Witt said, but see, I met him. We played Little League Baseball at Keesler.
Yeah.
We were 8, 9 years old.
Well, that reminds me to tell the story about Hank Berman. This is how long I've known him. This is about 1970 or so, maybe 69, 70. We're over to a friend's house, Norman Collins, and
Yeah.
um,
Oh, I know him.
and Hank was learning his first little Neil Young song.
Yeah.
Oh man, look at my life, and figuring out them chords and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that, God, 40, 50 years later or whatever, I'd be singing with him at the
Yeah.
White House.
That's in fact, I was playing in Ocean Springs. You came up and asked me to play the Neil Young Old Man, and I played it. But my voice was a lot higher back then too.
Just
Without the alcohol. And
he was playing at the Roost,
Yeah.
So I came down there, and it was like the start of his last set or whatever.
Yeah.
And I sat there politely, and I
did.
led the applause for him and all that kind of stuff. Well, some bitch never did ask me to get up and sing.
I was ready to go.
So I told him, I said,
Well,
don't be asking me.
I'm going to ask you twice next time. So
There you
if you,
All right now.
yeah, we'll do all right now.
The Ground Zero Blues Club thing, because I do shows, they wanted longer than I was willing to commit to doing. So I was lucky enough to call Hank.
Oh, yeah.
And Hank played the show with us and stuff. So I had built-in crowd from Hank's folks, and
It was a good call.
Oh,
Hank
man.
brings a crowd, man.
They
Hank will-
had the Billy Miller crowd was there too, without a doubt. But it was fun. That's a great
and
room.
that was for a good cause, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, a little Christmas.
Yeah,
I try and all
the
my
toys.
Soul Savant shows. I try and tie to some kind of charitable.
I think that's
thing.
great.
See,
man.
my dad's band does the same thing. It's because it's sometimes not about the money. It's more
it's
about
giving back.
It's giving back. It's also being on the stage, doing what you love to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, if you're in it for the money, you're in it for the wrong reason.
I agree.
Hell yeah. That's why Brennan gets all the money and the tips.
Well, he's a little whippersnapper, that guy. He's-
Yeah, and I'm
Gregory
glad
Peck.
we brought up his name because
you brought up his name.
Brendan Roybal. ladies and
Well,
gentlemen, Brendan Roybal.
my little brother Brendan Royal, it was around 21 when he started coming around Mosaic and stuff, and asking to sit in with the bands and all that kind of stuff. And he was finding his voice. He wasn't quite a singer at that point now. But nowadays, I tell him, you're the second best singer on the coast now.
Don't even have to ask who the first one is.
No, Brendan's got a good voice.
Yeah, he does.
I've heard him. Great voice. Hell of a piano player.
And 1 million songs in his head, man.
He's encyclopedia. when it comes to songs.
And not only that, keyboards, drums, bass.
Oh, yeah. Like
But-
Thomas.
But yeah. Just,
Well, one of the first times I met him, he pissed me off immediately.
he's good at that.
Yeah. So we were talking, and I forget where it was. We were both playing or somewhere, and he said, "Yeah." He goes, "I remember when I first saw your name, that you were playing," and I said, "Really? Where was that?" He goes, "It was Aunt Jenny's over on Washington." He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I was like 8 years old in the back of my mom and dad's car, and your name was up there." And I said, "Really, you little bastard? Really? You're gonna go there? You're gonna do that?" And of course, Brennan just gave me that grin, that smart ass grin, and it was like he knew what he was doing.
Brennan sometimes
It was fun.
need to call out at the White House, and Hank and I have we played up there together twice?
I'll say
now?
twice.
Yeah, and it was kind of a revelation for both of us, because I think Hank and I really hadn't played together.
Yeah,
it's
right.
amazing. We've known each other and have been friends
for a very long
for
time.
a long, long time.
Yeah.
But we are so simpatico. It's incredible.
Yeah, you made a comment about that night too. Something about how we took this long to discover.
Yeah.
Playing together.
Thank God we're not dead yet.
No,
man.
no. Let's not do that. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
give me some of your. Do you have any shows coming up or anything like that?
I play at the White House Hotel every Wednesday night. We've been there since July. I guess it's, like the house band, residency, whatever you want to call it. That's me and Brennan, and right now it's me and Brennan and the great Buddy Leach playing sax, which is, George Thorogood's sax player.
Right.
And Buddy is an arranger and accomplished musician.
Mhm.
And Thomas and I use Buddy's studio to do our rough demos and stuff, the songs we're writing. And I did want to say a song that Thomas and I wrote called Big Secrets in a Small Town. We did it for this pilot for a TV show that I was in called Blackwater Blues, which is set here in Ocean Springs.
I saw that.
Fictionalized as Blackwater. But it didn't get picked up for Blackwater, but this Lifetime movie that I just finished picked it up. So it's going to be in the end credits, and there's also a scene where a character's like working on his boat and it's got the radio on in the background.
And it's on the radio?
It's on the radio.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Oh wow, man! Be
And,
sure to post that. We can.
Yeah,
share that. That's
absolutely.
amazing.
Oh yeah, man. It's,
I saw that you were doing.
Cool
I saw you in a clip. It was like a movie clip, or it was a movie
Mhm.
they were doing down here. And I was like, well, there's Billy Miller.
That's
That's like
cool.
he threw the F-bomb a couple times. Like, there you go, Billy.
That's my
He
boy.
He made it.
and grabbed my testicles as I recall.
Yes. Ow, leave my
Which
testicles alone.
is the classic Biloxi boy salute.
Oh god.
That's true. You have to ask your question you ask all our guests.
Oh, that's right.
No, I can't give you any money.
All right, and that'll be it for the night, folks. Have a great one.
That's it.
So I always end off our interviews with this. If you can give a word of advice or encouragement or anything you want to say to up and coming musicians who are saying, "Here, I want to be a musician," or somebody who just started, or somebody who's in the thick of it and they just can't get to that next goal that they're trying to reach out. Like, what's something that Billy Miller would tell them?
I think I would tell them to remember that music isn't a goal-oriented pursuit. Don't believe that you have to sell albums and reach the masses and everything. Believe that you are bringing joy to people when you play music, and just think of it as that, and as a pure thing, and don't give up. If you have talent, you got talent. It will out. If you don't have talent, it will out. And you'll finally get the message. But most folks do, and if they surround themselves, just like Scott Henson said, when you're learning guitar or drums or whatever, try to play with people that are better than you, because it forces you to grow and adapt to the higher quality of playing. And lastly, don't be a lazy sumbitch. Work. There are so many musicians that it just infuriates me that if they would spend the time being creative, one of the things that kills me is, I bet you for 20 years there have been 40 songs that every band does down here. And part of it is because everybody has to catch as catch can. You have to make money. So you're in this band, that, this, blah, blah. So nobody advances. And part of being a musician is educating the audience, bringing them stuff they would never hear, and putting your own spin on it and making it your song. And don't be ashamed of saying, "Oh, we do covers," or whatever. Man, Joe Cocker did covers. Elvis Presley did covers.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Ray Charles did. Willie Nelson does them. You can write, but also the things that influenced you, make them your own. Show people where you got your soul from. And you do the song well enough, I don't care if it's been done by 20 people. You can make it your own.
That's good advice. I like that a lot.
That was very well said,
Yeah.
Mr. Billy.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
But he's not even in front of a jury. Did you
And-
see that? That's pretty
and,
awesome.
and
Just
it's
two
funny.
knuckleheads.
It's funny too, because when I came in here, I was going to go all Marshawn Lynch on y'all.
Oh, by all means.
It was like, yeah.
Just nothing, just grunting.
Yes and no.
I'm just here because they told me I
That's
have to be here.
Skittles.
Hank said, "You have to be here, Billy."
Thank you,
Actually,
Marsh.
I was here at 12:37. I was in court this morning, and this trial was going on. And at 11 o'clock, I stood up. I rested my case. I said, Judge, I got to do a podcast at 1 o'clock. I swear to God. And the judge used that as an opportunity to pause and bring me and the other attorney back and wrestle the settlement of it. I was like, thank you, Lord. I was so afraid I was going to be late, you know.
Well, no. See, we helped out. I hope we helped out.
Oh, you
your
did.
client.
You did. Because I was bored to tears.
I got you. Understood.
Yeah, we're well. Hey, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks,
you,
Billy.
Thank you all.
I know you
This is
took it.
great.
He's in a suit, ladies and gentlemen. He came back from court, but he showed up here today, and that means a lot. And all the words you said about past musicians and the past establishments.
Yeah.
I feel like we're building something that's honoring the past. That
We're not
we don't
letting
hear.
it die. We
Exactly.
want it to live on in any way we
Exactly.
can.
Exactly.
And this is part of it as well. So that's awesome.
I'm really honored that y'all asked me to do this.
Of course.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, I'm Jesse Hill,
I'm Hank Berman.
And I'm Billy Miller.
and until next time, see you later from the High Note podcast.
If we don't see you here, we'll see you here.
Oh, God, Thomas.
That's
You got some time. You'll have a good one.